channel on mental health, and we are in Mysore, Auckland Yoga Studio at David Garrigues workshop. Hi, David.
Hi, Anna.
David is internationally recognized yoga teacher.
Okay, here we go. What is yoga? And yoga is this consciousness or perspective on your life. In Ashtanga Yoga, it's a specific kind of Hatha Yoga. It's doing the postures and the breathing and the bandhas in a certain way. What teaching is empowering people through this yoga technology. So like helping them to understand how they can use it to open up to life and to the inner life within them. Yoga diet is important.
Would you please tell what is Ashtanga Yoga for you? What's your personal experience?
Well, I like that you're saying Ashtanga Yoga for you, and that's really important because it's a very individual thing, what it is. And to me, it's so you have to look in kind of levels. And so there's yoga, and yoga is the top level. Like, what is yoga? And yoga is this consciousness or perspective on your life and it's like a spiritual dimension to it. And so then the next layer is the Hatha Yoga. So it's a branch or a type of yoga, and it means physical yoga. Like Hatha means sun, moon, and so it's the yoga of opposing forces. But in a practical way, it's practicing. So it's trying to reach that consciousness that is yoga through postures and breathing and bandhas and concentration techniques and withdrawing the senses. So it's a specific kind of technology that you're using. That's Hatha Yoga. Okay, in Ashtanga Yoga, it's a specific kind of Hatha Yoga. Okay, so it's doing the postures and the breathing and the bandhas in a certain way that kind of condenses or gives you a method of Hatha Yoga, or what I call a technology. So you get these very practical practices for how to. So you use Ashtanga Yoga to learn Hatha Yoga, and the Hatha Yoga leads you to the yoga. And so that's what Ashtanga is. It's a Hatha Yoga system that teaches you these specific things about postures, breathing, and such.
Wow, thank you. It's the best explanation I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, and so and normally if you think typically or stereotypically about Ashtanga, you think it's like 6 days a week, and you do these series, first series, second series,
All
and
the
like
same each day.
all the same each day. And that to me is not what Ashtanga is. Like there's a certain aspect of the discipline that there is that, but it's a very loose and flexible kind of system because you're really trying to learn Hatha Yoga from that and to learn this perspective on the world and on yourself. And and the reason that I'm stating it that way is because you can get lost in thinking that Ashtanga is to do this series in this way and this many breaths,
It's
and
like
that makes it a very rigid kind of thing, and very it can be unfriendly. And sometimes it's taught that way, that either you have to do it this way or else it's not Ashtanga or something like that. And that I've been teaching for decades, and so to me the Ashtanga is a very open-ended, creative practice. It's very rooted in discipline, right? Because you do it daily, and you do postures and breathing every day, and you do them with a rigor, but you're really trying to learn about yourself and about yoga and about what this consciousness that yoga is through doing those things. And it's always individual. So when you say, what is Ashtanga Yoga to you? I love that because it's different to every single person.
Right.
Even though it looks like it might be the same thing, it's not. It's very customized, personal, and individual.
It's like the message is try to find your own Ashtanga Yoga, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And one last thing about what Ashtanga Yoga is to me, it is it's called like a lineage or some kind of tradition that's passed down. And so there's this teacher and student aspect to it. Like I learned it from a teacher. That relationship I had with that person is what I consider Ashtanga Yoga. And then also as a teacher, the connection that I have with the student, that is the spirit that's transmitted, like the spirit of what yoga is, and then how to practice asanas and pranayama and things. There's this kind of living connection between people that are devoted to that same thing in the same spirit.
Do you still feel that connection?
I still feel, yes, definitely.
I noticed today that when you do the mantra, opening and closing mantra, that you have voice very similar to his voice.
Yeah,
even though you are regular talking is different. You have different voice. And when you do the mantra, it's very similar.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's on purpose. Yeah.
Okay.
Pulling up, lifting the spine up, shifting your weight forward to the maximum, lengthening your legs and opening your chest. Okay, and then you fold when you go into third position. So, and you are looking at, come back up. So this is first position, an inhalation, and then an exhalation with a fold. Okay? And then when you come out, it's again you inhale. All right, now in that moment then, there's an exhalation where you take your hands to the waist. And you push back through the thighs and lengthen until you get this Uddiyana Bandha. Okay? And then up you come. Key moment that you want to note and be with. And then there's a fold, which is a very purposeful move to a stopping place. Then there's some breaths. And then you come up halfway and define that position, very clear. And then there's an extra breath that's not counted or accounted for with the language, where you put the hands to the waist, empty your lungs, lengthen in a kind of outward and downward and grounding. And you're even pushing back with your hands. So you're getting a kind of backward motion versus a forward motion that teaches you the subtle techniques, the bandhas, and then up you come.
What is actually teaching for you? What is that?
It's an evolving thing, and really, to me, what teaching is empowering people through this yoga technology. So, like, helping them to understand how they can use it to open up to life and to the inner life within them. And so that is teaching to me, is it's a empowerment of people through this yoga techniques. And how to do that it's an ongoing challenge, because everybody's different. So, and one of the things about yoga, that this consciousness that I'm talking about, or this spiritual dimension that we each have, that's kind of hidden from us, or that we've forgotten, or somehow there's obstacles to, it's like, but we're born with that, with what I call this destiny, a kind of a way that we're supposed to see the world, or share, or be in the world, that is not based on the material aspect of us. It's not based on, like, necessarily our job or the different things that we do materially, like eating and drinking and family and friends, and it's based on this interior thing, this invisible dimension that's kind of profound and sacred. And so, but each person has this very unique view, and that's part of the spiritual perspective. It's an individual thing that's not like anybody else. And so how to teach somebody to access that within themselves. So every person is different. So every person is going to use those techniques and do the postures and the breathing and the different aspects. They're going to have a different relationship to those things. And so how can I include everyone and see the differences in people and be able to help them to relate to the things, and which is very different than just here's a system and everyone does it like that. So that doesn't work that way. So everything has to be kind of personalized and customized, and that's and it's worked for me to teach. Like I've ended up doing a lot of online teaching, and I have like a real more global community and not a daily studio type of
Right, and that's how
setting.
I found you.
Yeah, and that's been interesting to interact with people that way. Like I teach a lot of people who I don't know, and they feel like when I meet them, they're like, they can't believe they're meeting me, like, because it's
yes,
like, because they keep seeing me online and everything, right? And but it's interesting how, like, because we're all unique, somehow that works for me. Like that I'm so happy that I'm able to share my knowledge in that way, and that people are receiving it and benefiting from it. And so for me, teaching is sharing my truth. I try to allow myself the freedom to explore what is relevant or true to me, and then I put it out there into the world, and I hope that people can relate to it. And I feel blessed that that has happened, and that is happening. And so so there is the teaching to me is just finding out what's true to me and putting it out there, and then hoping that it's received and that people benefit from it. And that's important, that I want people to, as a teacher, it's important to me that people respond by saying, wow, that was really helpful to me. And I'm looking for that,
Yes.
Even though I'm exploring my truth, but at the same time, it's the very fact that I'm a yoga teacher
It's exchange of energies, right?
Exactly. I have to connect with the people
Right.
in order for it to be satisfying to me.
Right.
Right. So I feel that is luckily happening.
It is, and I'm here, I'm first time experiencing seeing you alive. Prior that, I've seen you only on videos, and I can tell I could feel your energy through the videos. They are full of energy and like this bright, positive, strong energy. But I can say for people who are watching this video that here in this room, I felt this inner energy even more. You like when you are coming in, you are feeling in the space with your energy.
Yeah.
And I can feel that, and I'm sure all participants.
Right, and so I value those times too, when I get to actually gather with people and teach. Okay, so when you jump through and sit down, you come. And it's the instruction is Janu Shirshasana A, Sapta, jump through, sit down. So you jump through, you take back that right leg, you catch your foot somehow, some way, and breathe in. Look up and lengthen, just like the standing. Repeat it over and over, right? And this is a very excellent stopping place that you want to enjoy and mine. There's a mining that goes with every position. And then it's a move that brings you forward with the 8th position. And then to come out, again, you repeat that. That's how important it is. And you go through the whole process over again. And you want that interlock across the ball of the foot, not down here. Because you're pushing that ball of the foot into the interlock and you're pulling back against that and lifting up. Okay, that's with the inhalation. Then with the out breath, you let go, you lean back, you lift your feet, and you put the hands in front of the hips, shoulder width apart. Okay, and that is the crouch. Okay, and so you practice that move and you get ready with, so it's inhale, that formal position, and then take that again, go back to that, and lift up, inhale, and then exhale, get ready. And you build energy there. Okay, so remember that in many respects, the crouch is more important than the spring. And one reason why is because the crouch is neglected. Darn it. And also because everyone can do it. What happens afterwards is very variable. But everyone can crouch. So everyone can create a poised readiness for action, and through an out breath that galvanizes the whole body around that event. And remember, you don't want to clip that short. So it's like you're pulling back a slingshot, getting ready to shoot something. So if you pull it back this far and you want to shoot that thing far, how do you do it? No, you've got to really invest in that thing. And it's a skill. It won't necessarily happen right away. You might be like, but you can get it. Okay, so let's see that. It's many times in a row. Breathe in, look up, get your crouch, and forget the spring. It hasn't been invented yet. Forward, yet. You're back. And then you're gonna come forward to meet your hands in front of you. But we're not doing that yet. I just want this. So I just want to give you one more idea about teaching. That it's radical, and it's not. It needs other perspectives, but it is a perspective that I value, and it came from Swami. That he asked that. He teaches in Pennsylvania at an ashram, and he was asked that. What is teaching? And he had it's not a politically correct answer. And he said that teaching is when you box the person in and you give them no other choice but to see what you're trying to get them to see. And that is teaching. And so you know, that can be harsh and not suitable all the time, because we need flexibility, and we need to be able to take people's different perspectives and limitations and things into consideration. But at the same time, effective teaching is that when so I have something I want to convey to that student, and so I say it one way, and then I look at what their response is, and it's not what I had in mind. They didn't get it yet. So then I come from a new perspective, and I go, hold on, try it like this. And I keep going until I have really communicated to that person, this is what I'm asking, what I'm telling you. And to me, that's an effective teacher, because for one, you're respecting the person enough to go, no, you're doing that, but I want this. And then that's a little bit better, but now I want this. Okay, so that's one thing. And then from that, also, teaching is being able to give the student manageable step. Okay, and this is what my Asana Kitchen is about. And then, if you come and study with me in India, say, where I do a longer period of time, then I will give you steps in each of the postures that are suitable to you. And so teaching is that. It's being able to see the steps that will lead the student to the skill and to the development. And that takes a lot of knowledge and sensitivity and discernment to work with each person and find their step in a given puzzle.
Okay, yoga diet. Five main points.
Okay, so
just to be.
Okay, here's something very important. Okay, yoga diet is important. Just get that. And especially with Hatha yoga.
Yeah.
So Hatha yoga, remember we said that's the branch of yoga that we're working on when you do postures and breathing. So because it's a very somatic type of yoga, very bodily oriented, very dependent on your physical body. And so the food that you eat is particularly important.
Participates in the process of
in the process. And because part of the Hatha yoga is this purification of the body, and as a way of purifying the mind. And so what you put in will make a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah, and you will, if you have a bad diet that's rich in fats and more indulgent type of foods, then you're working against yourself in your practice. And so you're trying to, so that's one thing. It really matters. Okay? Then number 2 is there's a middle that you're looking for. Okay? But you have to be careful with this idea of a middle. So on one hand, there's overeating. Okay? And then on the other, there's undereating. So you can, and
it's very easy to slide from one to another, right?
It's easy to slide from one to the other, but it's also easy that overeating is much more represented now. There's many fewer are undereating.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So just understand that this middle, that you eat sparingly, okay, and that you be very, you try to show up to practice with a clear digestion. So that means that you don't eat late at night, and you practice preferably in the morning, so that the longest time can pass between when you've eaten and when you practice. Okay, so that it's a middle. That's your second point. That you're eating sparingly, so not fasting or overdoing fasting, but not overindulging. And it says in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is a sacred text on yoga, that's one of the, what destroys yoga is overeating. Okay, and so you have to be very, very clear about that quantity. And then the third point then is that you choose very, what we call our sattvic foods, and simple foods like fresh things, grains and vegetables and fruits, and really avoiding heavy meats, avoiding dairy, avoiding sauces and fats and very processed foods. That's 3. Okay, so just staying in what I call the center of the diet. Whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and mainly vegetarian protein sources. And if you eat meat, then keeping those kind of in the minimum, and choosing those wisely. Okay, and then indulgences like going out and celebrating and having desserts or alcohol and big rich meals. Those are very special occasions that you plan for and you enjoy, but they're not the everyday thing, or they're not even necessarily like once a week. Okay, and number 4, you step into the yogic diet slowly and steadily. So not going to extremes, okay? Because this is something you want to sustain for your whole life, and so you have to build into it. And it's very hard if you've been eat a lot of meat, say, or you might be overweight or something. So, but you're very slowly adopting different food choices, and then you'll be able to sustain those. Okay, so it's very important not to go too extreme, because you can end up right back where you started, or even worse. And here's the 5th. So one of the things about yoga and the whole idea of this material dimension versus the spiritual dimension. And remember I said earlier that that part of yoga or part of coming into the world is kind of forgetting your spiritual dimension because you're attached to the material. Okay, and so we gain these habits around desires that aren't suitable for us, and those desires, they come in appetite, and so in food choices, in drink choices, and other things. And what's funny is we think that like the drink from Starbucks that we're attached to, that we have to have every day, that's, you know, the triple latte with vanilla and all this, that we think that our taste buds love that, but we're wrong. And so the fifth one is so interesting. It's truly enjoy your food. Okay, and what you'll notice is that when we eat from habit, we have that thing we're attached to, we're not enjoying it if you really get down to it.
Because it's addiction.
It's addiction, and we don't even notice it after a while. And so enjoying your food is what's important. Not so much how much of it or what food it is. It's more that I'm really enjoying this right now. And letting that lead the way.
If you have only 5 minutes per day for yoga, how would you use that? How to keep everyday practice? Could you please say a little bit more about your project? What do you do about Asana Kitchen?